Hello and welcome back to another episode of From the Field. We have had a 2 week hiatus because of unforeseen circumstances, so I do apologise for that. But luckily, we are back to our normal schedule. Today, we are covering off how to unlock insights with intelligent data processing. As we all know, documents are here to stay. They're going to run our businesses probably into the next millennia or so. But how can we make it so we don't take those files that we get given and then they go off into the ether and we actually can unlock additional value? But before we get into that, Scott is going to be our resident expert here on this topic. He actually put together a lot of this deck and presentation. But before we get into that, a quick one, Scott. Can you introduce yourself quickly and then also tell us what was the first programming language and project that you work on?
Oh, good, cool. Hey everyone, my name's Scott and I'm a senior solutions architect here at AWS, specializing in kind of serverless and IoT and really modern architectures. I get really excited about that. My first project programming languages were Java and actually C++. I built my own ray tracer in C++ back in the day, and since then discovering I think more accessible programming languages like Node.js and Python as well, building API backends in Node.js and promises, just kind of doing my head in and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think JavaScript or Node.js or anything like that. I feel it's one of those languages that it's very easy to think you know what you're doing, and then you try to do something with it, and very quickly you find out
Yeah.
that you've gone down.
All of a sudden, you get an understanding of what async is and how it can just mess your day up.
Yep. And also modules and global spaces and all that. So you did say before that you're really into your modern architectures. So you've written a book, am I correct?
I have. The book is called Learn AWS Serverless Compute and available on Amazon.com. And yeah, it's about 350 pages, and it really takes you from knowing nothing about serverless and the kind of architectures you can build from it, and even explaining why serverless kind of exists. So, we're abstracting from physical to virtualization to containers, and then all the way up to kind of like the little functional code. So, go check it out, and it's been quite popular.
A shameless plug, like everything else.
Thanks, Casey. I don't normally get to plug.
Would you actually ever write another book, or is that like your one and done?
Wow. It took me about a year of free time to do, and in that time, I kind of ignored all my friends for a year, and they supported me with that, but I don't know if I'd do it again in a hurry.
Who needs friends? Cool. Do we want to just quickly jump into this then, and share your knowledge on, intelligent processing?
Yeah, sure. Maybe you can help me with a demo as well.
Oh, well, you're twisting my arm. I guess I can.
We can show everyone that it actually exists.
Yes, that's the key one, and also where they can go and get it as a standing foundation.
Yeah, that's right. Right, so let's get into it. As I said, my name's Scott, solution architect here at AWS, and today we're going to talk about intelligent document processing. And what we can see is that processing of documents like PDFs or scanned images and that sort of thing is a really common task for every business. I'm going to say every business. So in this session, I'll share how you can use AWS AI services to automate some of that document processing. Then I'll show you a ready-to-go document understanding solution that you can deploy yourself in your own accounts. And we'll get Casey to help us with that as well. So this is Zoe. Zoe works in the finance team for a local construction company, and I got Stable Diffusion to generate this image, and that's why her arm looks sort of superhuman a bit there. Just for interest, you can use the Stable Diffusion foundational model through SageMaker Jumpstart. So if you're interested in having a go yourself, you can deploy that. And this is what the local construction company's environment used to look like, where documents were filed in folders and files physically. And now Zoe often couldn't find the right document, and there was no easy way to pull data from multiple documents at once. You see on the shelves there that she'd have to go and pull them and correlate the information, and then it just gets it into a mess.
This is very common in healthcare. Like my dentist still has like a filing cabinet that they pull my records from. It's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I know. So this construction company, they invested in a document management solution, and now their files and folders look like this. And this might look pretty familiar. I've made it pretty generic there, but if you look at fundamentally what's changed, it's just the storage layer really. So now instead of storing physical copies of what we have as digital copies stored in files and folders. But did that really address the problem? Did it solve anything there? Probably not, because the same challenges and issues are still there. It hasn't helped Zoe, and it hasn't helped the company wanting to transition from a document-heavy operations into becoming a more insights-driven enterprise. So what can we do about that? Now, Zoe's IT team, they've looked into a common document processing pipeline. This is where you ingest documents into the pipeline, and these could be invoices or orders or any other type of document that to do with their kind of construction business. And then you can use different processes there to extract the data, either manually with data entry or using an OCR tool. And then you want to ensure that the data is validated before finally storing or sending to a downstream system. And it's a fairly straightforward process, right? You ingest, you extract, and you analyze, or you use the data. But we found the most complex and error-prone and time-consuming part of the whole process is that extract phase. There's some challenges there. So you can extract that data manually. You can get very expensive very quickly. Also, it's error-prone and doesn't scale very well. So it's usually not the best use of the employee's time and skill set. Imagine a legal secretary going through all those documents. Their skill set is not actually pulling the documents in and finding the stuff. It's knowing the underlying law and rules and that sort of thing. Another approach is optical character recognition, which works really well. We've been using that for years. But the challenge with that approach is you have to create rules and templates for every document that you process. And that means the document has to be structured the same way every time. You need to specify exactly where to look in the document for things like the invoice ID or the vendor ID or the dollar amount, like everything you need to know about. And that can add significant amount of overhead. Again, and one more thing is that,
sorry to jump in there, especially with documents that change and iterate over time. So if you think about the context of import and exports, those documents aren't static. They do slowly change as legislation is updated. And that means every single time if you're running out of OCR and those type of processes, you have to go in and update it and also allow it to handle the different versions of the documents, because it's not uncommon for different countries to be staggered in terms of their compliance.
Yeah, that's right. And going back to the construction company example, if you've got 100, 200 suppliers and one of them changes their invoice structure, then that can mess your day up as well, and you got to figure out where in your process that went wrong and things like that. And another thing with that OCR approach is meeting those compliance requirements is another challenge, because OCR doesn't really tell you the nature of the document, the data in there. So it doesn't actually tell you what's being processed. It could be personal data or medical history or a credit card number and things like that. And so you have to rely on downstream systems to do that kind of analysis, where you could redact that information right at the start if you needed to. All right. So to address some of those challenges, Zoe's IT team is now kind of considering how they can add artificial intelligence to their document workflows in those physical files and folders. Now, like a lot of other companies, they've come across two roadblocks, and number one is finding the right resources. There's only a limited number of engineers and data scientists with machine learning expertise out there. And second, the whole process of training custom machine learning models and preparing data sets and things like that takes a lot of time, and it's something that not many businesses like construction companies can actually afford or prioritize over other projects that they have underway. And that's really important to call out. Is just because you can do that doesn't mean you have enough time to go and be able to prioritize that and pull that value there. That's why at AWS we've put a lot of focus into building a broad set of AI services to provide customers those pre-trained machine learning models, and they can solve a number of common business use cases there. For example, extracting text and insights from documents we're talking about today. There's a few other ones there. Okay, so let's come back to that topic of creating intelligent document processing pipelines. Let's look at the concept at a high level, and then we can dive into matching up some AI services to those components there. So first, you ingest the document, and then that ingested document is processed by an AWS AI service, which will extract the data from the documents. And then what's exactly happening behind the scenes there is that the AI service are using pre-trained machine learning models to make predictions. And it also tells us how confident it is about the predictions using a confidence score between 1 and 100. Now, there's two scenarios. So either it can predict with a high confidence, and we follow that happy path scenario, where the data gets sent to the downstream system. And I think this is exactly what Zoe and her business wants. If it's highly confident in the data, then automate the process the whole way, right? That's where you're going to get maximum value and maximum reuse and efficiency, that sort of thing. But for those low confidence score scenarios, this is where you can send the data for human review. And you've got control over that threshold of which path you take, 0 to 100, you can pick which number. And that human is someone who can make the required corrections and then save the data out. And you can see what's different about this approach here is here we're combining machine learning intelligence with human review. And that gives us both the speed and the accuracy of the data. All right, that's the high level concept. Let's match up some components there.
And also importantly, the last step of that is you take the corrected information from the human review and feed that back into the model. So it means that over time you will see less and less of those low scores for similar like low confidence problems.
Yeah, that's right. We call that retraining. So for every kind of edge case that you find, it can go into a retraining data set and feed back and make the model more accurate. So the first step is you ingest the documents, and you can do that either one at a time or in batch. Say you've got heaps, you're doing a migration from a physical store into digital. That's all good. You can do that. The next one is you want to use Amazon Textract to extract that text from documents. And Textract uses ML to automatically extract text from documents or handwritten text. And you might say, well, that's something my OCR tool can do as well. And that's correct. But what Textract also gives is the relationships between that extracted text. So you can easily extract things like key value pairs, and can recognize tables and forms in documents as well. Without telling it where the tables are and what format it is, it can just recognize it. And then, as I said earlier, you can augment that with human review. And so what Amazon Augmented AI will do is allow Zoe to see both the original text and the predicted text side by side on a UI, and then she can decide which is correct or make any amendments from there. Okay, the next step is what we usually call the understand phase. So you can use Amazon Comprehend to actually now understand that extracted text from Textract. And this is where I think you'll see how ML really makes a difference. So Amazon Comprehend can highlight if the extracted data is personal data or if it's credit card number. It can give you the sentiment in the text as well, so positive or negative. And this allows you to automatically label and classify documents. And then you can also redact sensitive data before sending it to downstream systems. So if your downstream systems aren't PCI DSS compliant, they can't handle credit card numbers or PIN numbers, that kind of thing, then you can redact that straight out of a document before having to save it out. And finally, you can store the data into a data lake or Amazon OpenSearch or Kendra and then extract useful insights. Or you can use that data to automate a business process by updating downstream line of business systems or source of records. So it all starts from there. It all flows into the automation. There's quite a few use cases that we can apply this architecture to as well. That's why it's so generic. The most obvious ones are in business process automation, especially useful for things like insurance claims processing or converting invoice and balance sheets into CSV files. And then once you've ingested all that data from the documents into a data lake, there's plenty of insights you can get from searching across that in different ways as well. So for Zoe, what that means during monthly invoicing means she doesn't have to spend hours and hours with manual data entry anymore. She can get onto the accounting side of things and making sure that the balance sheet is correct and things like that. Right. So I think that's a pretty cool intro. So let's talk about the document understanding solution. Now, this is a solution that we've published that lets you deploy it to your own accounts and get started and really see how you can put these components together in kind of a demo nature. This is kind of a diagram what it looks like. You can play around with these components and see how they work together, and you don't have to use them like this, but this is a really great tool to get started and get understanding what's going on under the hood. You can find it on AWS Solutions Library, and I'll show you a link to there in a minute. And it's also actually an open source project under the Apache license, so it's on GitHub as well if you feel like contributing yourself. All right, Casey, what does it look like?
One more to the point, if you want to fork it and then tweak it for your own means.
Good point.
So let's just go straight into it. I'm not as rich as you, so I don't need to have those black bars because my screen's tiny. So let me just rearrange my screens a little bit here. You can go there. So then that means I'm actually looking at my camera rather than my side profile is not as good as it used to be. Like that there. Okay, cool. So this is once you log in. So when you set up under DOS CloudFormation into your AWS account, it will send you an email, and that email will contain the like username and password to access this, and it also will give you the URL. As you can see, I've actually put a domain in front of this particular one, so it just makes it easier. I don't have to remember a long CloudFormation like a default URL. So this is what we call the discovery track. So this is like really going into the understanding. We can read there, but so as I mentioned before, there's a whole bunch of pre-approval here. So pre-loaded documents, and then from here you can ask basic questions. Let's just do something like, what is diabetes? And here you can see what would this question look like if you actually asked it from Elasticsearch, Kendra, and then when you actually combine both the same on the same page. Let's just click into one of these, and then it will load up this document. There is really cool stuff happening here. So this is the document, and you can search it up here, which is like, let's just look for the word commons there. Obviously this is talking about kidneys, so you'll find kidneys everywhere. And then to what Scott was saying earlier is that there's a whole bunch of mechanisms here that allow you to go find things. So let me actually create something that we'll find something that is a little bit more interesting. Here's something I prepared earlier, as they say. So a lot of the time when you are dealing with documents, or when I've dealt with documents, especially PDFs, what that was is I downloaded a PDF from a website, and then I went in, printed it out, did all of the information entry onto it, and then I scanned it and then sent that back as a PDF. So now that means you got a whole bunch of images inside a PDF, which I don't know about you, but if you've ever tried using search on an image, it doesn't particularly work that great. But what this tool also does under the hood is that it goes through and then extracts all the information and then creates what is known as a searchable PDF. So if I go up here and I want to look for contact, it will actually find that fact that contact is listed here, here, and here. And if I want to get those key value pairs, I can actually then say, hey, if I want to grab contact name out of this, it will return back Rohit to Kijit. This is all made up information, by the way, but you can also set, and there's also the fact that it recognizes that this is a table as well. Now,
What's cool about that, the tables as well, if you scroll right to the bottom, it should give you a little bit of a link to download that data. If you just hover your mouse over the bottom of the table, it should pop up.
down there, yeah.
Download CSV. So you can actually, it's picked that this table is full of data. You can download it directly to a CSV into Excel and start using it from there. Really cool.
Yep. And to that point, they can actually then feed onto downstream processes such as actually, processing this form and into the system and all of that good stuff. Now, let's just keep on this path, and let's say we want to just redact personal information because we're going to forward this to a third party and we don't want to compromise this person's thing. You can actually click this little redact button here, and it will go and redact information that is related to that. So we've just removed the fact that where this person's contact information, and also anything that's related to a person, except for obviously this contact number, which I don't know why there are other. And now no one knows who this person is. And you can then download this by clicking this redact document up here, and that will download this PDF with all of the redaction in there. And there's also medical entities, so if I go back to one of those medical documents, so just really quickly, I should have done this when I was in the other one. The lovely Will. You can see that there is, it is also able to pick up on the medical terminology that is within these documents. Is there anything that you wanted to add before I continue?
Yeah, so obviously this is a put together solution showing you under the hood things like Textract and Comprehend. Comprehend Medical actually is responsible for pulling out things like drug names and conditions, and it can also actually understand medical shorthand, handwriting, which is, I think, probably superhuman.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can understand what doctors are writing, so it's pretty impressive they managed to make something that did. And so behind the scenes, I wanted to show you a few things. So even if you are using this solution, there is doing quite a few things in the background. So the one, if I select the right bucket, which is here, where you can see as what Scott was talking about before, the underlying services. So this is for a completely different PDF. This is a PDF that is talking about the random forest machine learning algorithm. Don't ask me why I have that. And then in here, like, it will pull out, read that PDF, and then dump all of the Textract information into this S3 bucket. And same with the comprehend information. What this means is that you can now access this data through Athena or through any other type of back-end process, and then they can feed it downstream.
And I guess because it's creating, and it's part of the workflow, it's creating this output, creating this JSON, you could set up a trigger on that JSON object or any object coming into there, and I guess kick off another event-driven workflow, to go and take that and ingest it into a downstream system.
100%. And also, the other thing to note is where I was talking about when you have the images. So this is the raw PDF that was uploaded, and in the output you'll see that there's a searchable PDF. So that is the PDF that this solution has gone in and then has made it so you can actually search through this PDF if it's just images. Now, if you, it also comes in with the inbuilt ability to either do bulk uploading, or you can actually have this as the input method. So if you have 100 images, 100 PDFs or whatever, you can actually just upload it into this directory here, and it will take that and process it. I believe there is a trigger on create that kicks off a Lambda to actually start processing these. But what you can also do, which we have done in another demo but I didn't have time to set up, is that you can also set a trigger on when a PDF is sent to an email address, that can then get picked up for a Lambda and then deposited into a S3 bucket, and then this will pick it up and then process it, and then continue down the event stream.
So that could be quite cool for like an accounts payable or accounts receivable email inbox, right? If you don't want your accounting staff or your finance team to actually be working out of an inbox, they can be working out of their finance application instead.
Yeah, very good call on that one. And then there's a little other thing. So this is the giant Lambda that runs the whole entire thing, and there is a state machine at the back end as well. I won't go into this in any detail. We do have some slides that go into the infrastructure or solution architecture of this, which with that I will say I'll hand over back to you, unless you think that there's any other part of the solution that I have missed.
No, it's thanks for showing us.
Awesome. Okay, I'll put you back on, and I have to switch around my screens again.
Cool. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, here's a link to the document understanding solution that we just saw, and you can deploy it in your own accounts. You can scan that or visit that link. And we'd really love your contribution as well. If you want enhancements or customizations, then submit a pull request to the GitHub, or fork it yourself and change it for your liking. Let us know what you've done. So yeah, if we dig into underneath and see what's going on in the solution architecture kind of space, feel free to jump in, Casey, if you felt I've missed anything here. But at a high level, there's really 4 phases in the solution. So that's the ingestion, the extraction, the document understanding, the analysis. So same concept as that high level concept that we talked about earlier. Starting with the ingestion, so the user experience begins with that serverless web app hosted on Amazon S3 and served by Amazon CloudFront. Now Casey had put a really nice domain in front of it, but underneath there is a CloudFront distribution. And the application uses Amazon Cognito for authentication and authorization, and it uses Amazon API Gateway for handling the user requests, such as the search or downloading documents and things like that. So a user uploads files through that user interface, and there's also an option for uploading large numbers of documents through the S3 bucket that we saw with Casey. And then from there is the extraction. So once that file is uploaded and its metadata is stored in DynamoDB, a DynamoDB event stream immediately kicks off the processing of the document. So that's where our event-driven workflow starts, really. And a Lambda function decides which of 2 processing paths the file should follow. So for images, because they tend to be small, we can use a synchronous flow. For PDFs, they can be quite large, so up to hundreds of pages. So for that, we'd want to use an asynchronous flow. So let's see how Textract API works under the hood. So here I'm using Boto 3, which is an AWS SDK for Python, as an example. And we initiate a call to Textract's Analyze Document API. And then, as you notice, there's an option to pass the S3 file as a parameter. So that'll go off and analyze the document, and then once that's processed, Textract responds with a JSON with all the extracted information and the metadata, like the text and the geometry, which is like the location of the text, and that can be used to redact sensitive information. Awesome. Next one is understand. So once the file has been processed by Textract, it will be sent to Amazon Comprehend to detect and extract the named entities. Let's see how the Comprehend API works. Again, I'm using Boto 3 in this example. We initiate a call to Comprehend's detect entities API endpoint. And you notice here's the option to send in the text. So where it says string, we would pass that text that was extracted by Amazon Textract from the previous step. And then once the text is analyzed, Comprehend responds again with a JSON file extracted with the extracted information and metadata like the entity and the location of the entity, and also a confidence score for the accuracy. So I
One
was talking. Yep.
So one thing I also want to say is that the fact that TextTrack understands and is able to convert like so many different languages is quite unique for an OCR tool, especially one that you don't have to pay through the nose for. And this is really undervalued, especially when you're dealing with lots of different countries. So, like for example, exporting businesses, this is quite a big deal. For your local construction company, probably not so much.
Yeah, gotcha. Cool. I just wanted to call out that score as well. So we've got a score of 97. So we're fairly confident that the accuracy of the entities coming out is are correct.
And it also tells you the language is detected.
True. So as we saw, both the Textract and Comprehend, they provide confidence scores for the extracted information. If it's too low, you can leverage Amazon augmented AI or A2I service to easily integrate human review to enrich that information for the low score items. Um, so you could use that to implement iterative model improvements for addressing the data with poor quality as well. So you might have a particular supplier that they orient their stuff in a weird way. So you can feed back into making that more accurate. And the final step is consolidating that extracted information from Textract and Comprehend, and automatically indexing that data into Elasticsearch and optionally Kendra. Kendra is really neat, and this provides the user with the ability to search across the documents using keywords or natural language queries. So you can actually ask Kendra natural language questions, and it will come back with contextual answers. And that's the general user flow. The only thing here I didn't really go over in detail is the DynamoDB tables, and they're used for storing metadata. That metadata is really important for coordinating the backend processing that's required by the Dust application, and it kind of stores state and things like that throughout the process. So that's what I've got today, and hope it's been useful. This stuff is really easy to jump on and try out for yourself. You jump onto the S3 console. You can try it out directly in the console with some text. Get back the results, fairly instantly. Then when you've done that, you can maybe jump to the CLI, and you can try the same thing in the CLI and see that you'll get the data back, and then from there you should be confident to go and use the SDK, build it into your lambdas, and the opportunities and the possibilities are endless from there to build this into your actual document workflows for your org.
Cool and awesome. Because you did talk about the DynamoDB tables, I did think it'd be good to just, because we have some time, to just quickly bring those up. So as you mentioned before, this is the one that keeps track of like essentially what state they're in, if they've succeeded in being transformed, when it was transformed, or they've been processed, have they even ever been processed. So I think that you mentioned before one of the limitations of the solution that is if you try to process a document that's already been processed, it jams up a bit, and if that happens, then you'd have to come into these Dynamo tables and do a bit of manual tweaking.
Yep, that's right.
And then this is the other table where you have the output paths for all of the secondary documents that are created. There's probably a little bit more in here because there's probably these keys a little bit more dynamic, but this is just what's at the front page. And I thought it would just be interesting to have a quick show of that.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, you could, I guess, this is used for kind of persistence of state, but you could have the state in a state machine if you liked, state functions, if you're building this yourself. Or you could, the output of one tool could drop into an S3 bucket, which could trigger the next one. But you just need to you need to think about how you solve for the errors. So if there's any errors down in the downstream, do they roll back? Do they mark the document as corrupt or something like that? So a state machine would be really good for that. Same with the DynamoDB table.
Yeah, error flows are critical to get right because you need to know when something's going wrong, and so you can address it really, really quickly. And as you said, like the ability to rerun processes is also quite important.
Yeah.
So, if any of the people watching, if you have any questions around serverless in general, or events, architectures, or the document processing that we've gone over, do drop a question in right now because we are about to wrap up. I think you've just put in a couple nice QR codes there. So, do you want to dive into what this
Yes, if you want to continue your cloud journey, dive deeper. We've got so many free online trainings now. It's crazy with AWS Skill Builder. Jump in there and really get hands on with these services and things like that. And if you want to prove to your organization that you've learned these things, you're really good at them. There's AWS certifications where you want to, not just check the box, but your next employer is going to thank you as well.
And the one that I always will call out is Cloud Quest, I believe. It's not free, but I think there's a 7-day trial, which essentially allows you to do one of the Cloud Quests for like free if you do it pretty much every single day. And those are really, really awesome. They're very interactive, so they'll take you through a whole bunch of workshops and like take you through using all of those different services. So I would also highly recommend Cloud Quest if you want something a little bit more interactive and not just
Yeah.
I think Skill Builder is very slideshowy.
Yeah. Oh, something that we've just recently released as well. We've made all of our content that was at this summit in Sydney recently available online for on demand. So jump onto Google and do a search for that.
Actually, I should probably find that summit.
Probably find a link, but
yeah, I was like, well, we're here. We might as well actually do some of the hard work. I just realised that just typing a summit into Google gives you some very broad results. Alright, there we go. I think this is the one. While we go and find that, Scott, so thank you very much for jumping on and actually sharing your knowledge. And again, this has been great. And do you have anything else that you want to cover off before we jump off?
Nothing. Like if you give this a go and you're finding it hard to link all the dots, then reach out to me. You find me on LinkedIn or through the channels, or reach out to your account manager or SA, and we can help you out.
And I believe this is the link.
Oh, neat.
There we go.
That looks right.
See, I'm totally worth my pretty face. I know how to Google stuff.
You pull this production all together, mate.
Oh, mate, like, you don't even understand how much I don't do. And next week we do have another show coming up. I'm just going to let everyone know what we're going to cover off, and then we're going to jump off. Why do I not have this up already? Scott, you're going to have to write a bad review for me.
We're not. How many? We're sending a few surveys after this.
Oh, nah. Oh, that's right. So next week is going to be awesome. I can't believe I forgot this. So we have one of our AWS partners coming on. So they're from Cohen. And you know how whenever you go into like a new company, either as a consultant or like a new employee, and you have really no idea what the hell is going on in the AWS environment, and like nearly no one has up-to-date architecture diagrams ever. And there's a lot of common issues such as like where is this machine actually sending information to, like data to? Is it getting routed through the private backbone of AWS, or is it going out through to the internet and then coming back in? And obviously one of those is a lot cheaper than the other. And so he has, in his own time, developed a little bit of a tool that allows you to essentially export out this current state of your environment and then be able to write queries against that either through Athena or through a MySQL database.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. And with that, thank you again, Scott, for coming in and sharing your knowledge.
Thanks for having me on.
And for everyone else, Matiwa, and thanks for watching.
Bye.
Yeah, that was a disaster.